Hey, this is the Golden Beamer, and today we're going to be looking at the difference of BeamNG 0.14 and 0.37. As you may have noticed if you watch my other video, I already did this exact thing. But I know that was repetitive and a terrible video, so we are going to do this again but better. Firstly, we are going to be looking at the main menu. Once you launch the game in 0.37 or 0.37.6 for this example, you are treated with the main menu screen. And the main menu screen shows the quick start experiences, free roam, the career mode, which is still in the work, the repository, the credit, the options, the quit button, and the more. Okay, so in the more menu we can see the upcoming rally mode, the campaigns, the scenarios, the time trial, the garage, the bus route, light runner, track builder, replay, stat, and you should ignore the multiplayer mod because that's part of the BMP mod. Now we are in version 0.14.0.5 and this menu is a lot smaller, mostly because it's an older version. We can see the options here are play, options, news, which isn't in the modern game, help, the repository, garage, replays, the credit, exit, which is just quitting the game. Okay, so we are going to check the difference between 0.14 and 0.37 at 20 miles per hour at the suspension test. Okay, I want to try this again, but this time with the 2400 Ti TT Sport of the ETKI series, because that's a sportier vehicle and will also get us more results about the difference between the two versions. Now we are going to be looking at the graphics. As seen on screen, I put a comparison between 0.14 and 0.37, and this way we can see the differences between the graphics. Now I want to check the performance difference between 0.14 and 0.37. And disclaimer, not all maps in version 0.37 are included in this list because 0.14 does not include them. So only the maps that 0.14 has will be included. This comparison will also include the Vulcan Wanderer of 0.37. With that said, we will start with Automation Test Track, which was a collaboration with Automation and BeamNG Drive. Performance difference was rather surprising for this map, with BeamNG 0.14 having an average FPS of 123 and 0.37.6 had an average FPS on DirectX edition of 135 FPS, which is 12 FPS more than the older version. Vulkan, on the other hand, at 147 FPS, which is another 12 FPS above 0.37.6 direct. That means that the Vulkan renderer of 0.37.6 has 24 more FPS than 0.14. Now we will move on to the cliff map. The cliff map was designed to completely wreck your car by smashing it off a cliff. So, performance difference between 0.14 and 0.37 are here a little less surprising. 0.14 has an average FPS of 268, which is more than 0.37.6, which has 218 FPS. But 0.37 DirectX edition has less FPS than the Vulkan renderer, which stands at 229 average FPS. These average FPS results are made with the specs on screen. Next up is the derby arenas. This map is primarily used to wreck your car or use the figure 8 of the derby arenas to race around with either the dune kicker or the hopper most of the time, for me at least. Performance on this map was pretty surprising. 0.14 has an average FPS of 190, which is pretty good. Then 0.37 has an FPS of 137, but the Vulkan renderer has a lower FPS than 0.37 DirectX with 134 FPS. And next up is the ETK Driver Experience Center, primarily used to test vehicles on the ice or in the big dome. So the FPS in 0.14 was 216 FPS. While both the DirectX version and the Vulkan renderer of 0.37 both have an FPS of 150. Okay, so now we are in the map of the East Coast USA, the biggest map so far. This map is primarily used to race across the highway. It has tons of scenarios, and the city is also a lot of fun, in my opinion. So, the performance of this map in 0.14 is 101 FPS, and then in the DirectX version of 0.37 it is exactly 100 FPS, and then following it, the Vulkan renderer has 115 FPS. And now we are at the map that doesn't exist anymore in the modern version, but I got it as a mod, and that is Grid Map V1. It is the most iconic map of the game, with tons of ramps, the sky curbs, the tubes, and a lot more. So, the performance of the grid map on 0.14 is an average of 119 FPS. And in 0.37, since the map didn't change much, the FPS is higher with 211. And in the Vulkan renderer, this is 235 FPS. And next up is Hirochi Raceway, which is the biggest racetrack in the game. So, the performance of the Hirochi Raceway at 0.14 is 196 FPS. And then at 0.37, DirectX edition is 123, and at the Vulkan renderer it's 132 FPS. And next up is the industrial side and the port. And you say, Goldbeamer, why the port? The port doesn't exist in the current version. And that's right. This is because the industrial side and the port merged in the latest versions. So, to get the performance of the industrial side and the port, I'll just combine them and divide them by 2 to get the average. So, in 0.14, the industrial side and the port combined is 109 FPS. And then, the industrial side at 0.37 is 95 FPS. And then at the Vulkan renderer, it's 131 FPS. And then, we arrive at Jungle Rock Island. Jungle Rock Island is primarily an abandoned island with a lot of dirt roads that is perfect for off-road and rally courses. So this map is a lot of fun for people who are into those activities. And thus, the performance of Jungle Rock Island on 0.14 is 136 FPS. And then following that, 0.37.6 has 90 FPS, and then also following that, the Vulkan renderer stands at a nice 93 FPS. Now we arrive at Small Island, just like your car. And so, the performance of Small Island on 0.14 is 126 FPS. And on 0.37 it's 95. And on the Vulkan renderer it's 98. And next up on our beautiful list, we have the emptiest map called Grid Smile Pure. In this map, there is nothing but empty road forever. So, we would expect the performance to be really high. But is that the case? The performance on 0.14 on Grid Smile Pure is 525 FPS. Which is a lot. And then on the modern version on DirectX, it is 266 FPS. Then on the Vulkan renderer is 277 FPS, which is the highest performance yet, and will probably forever be for a BeamNG map. And next up is the most red-headed and red-dusted map in BeamNG so far, which is Utah. So, this map is really red, perfect for the highway, perfect for rallying, perfect for police chases, and perfect for rolling off of a hill. So, but what are the performances on Utah? Well, on 0.14, Utah averages a 170 FPS performance. In the modern version, 0.37.6, on the DirectX version, Utah remains at a steady 130 FPS. And then at the Vulkan renderer, which is of course more FPS than the DirectX version, at 155 FPS. And now we arrive at the very last map on our list, that is the most intensive map of the game, West Coast USA. This is also the map that you can do anything you wish at, because there's a bridge, there's a racetrack, there are highways, there's a city, there's a residential area, there's everything, even a damn forest. So, because this map is really big and intensive, the FPS are surprisingly low. On 0.14, I only managed to score an average of 79 FPS, and in the DirectX version of 0.37 is the most surprising. It's the first time it went under 60 FPS. It even went under 50 FPS at 47 FPS. But the Vulkan renderer saves the day by boosting the West Coast USA by more than double, making it 105 FPS, the biggest jump in performance yet. I'm going to showcase some crash tests between the two versions, beginning at 20 miles an hour, then 40, then 60, then 80, and then finally 100 miles per hour into a wall. This is the end of the video. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you really like my content, please subscribe. And if you have any other ideas on what I should do for my next video, leave an idea in the comments. And if you also want to give me feedback on how to improve my videos or what to remove in my videos, please let me know so I can work on that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.